Well, hello again. I'm Mitchell Philpott, and today we're going to demonstrate how Curo on Power Platform integrates with Microsoft Excel to give you all the amazing reporting and analysis features of Excel, plus the ability to update data in Curo with the ease of updating a spreadsheet. Now, I don't think it's an exaggerated claim to say that for most people in financial services, Excel is a tool of choice. The ability to perform complex calculations, to graphically represent data, to use filters and formulas is extraordinary. And it's little surprise that when we engage with firms and we look at the way in which they create relied upon management information, we find that spreadsheets are everywhere. And unsurprisingly, therefore, what we often find is that firms have hundreds of them. Now, the only problem with that is that there's no ability to automatically or easily refresh the data in those spreadsheets from, say, a back office system. So firms not only have hundreds of spreadsheets, they also end up with hundreds of individual databases. And over time, the value of the data in those databases becomes stale and out of date. Not only does the value of the data become degraded over time, if the spreadsheets are relied on for information, well, that information can soon become unreliable and just plain wrong. From previous videos, you'll know that our mantra is all around the maintenance of one truth, a single source of securely held quality data on which you can rely. Curo is built on Microsoft's Dataverse, and Dataverse provides just that. And because Excel is part of the Microsoft 365 securely connected ecosystem, you can use all the power of Excel to analyze the data you hold in Curo. That means that your reports are automatically up to date every time you view them. The data you invest time in accumulating and maintaining never becomes stale, and you never risk being misinformed. But that's not all. Didn't I say that you can also update Curo records using spreadsheets? Everyone knows how easy it is to update data in a spreadsheet. That's one of its most powerful design features. Imagine if you could update data in your back office system just as easily. Well, with the integration between Curo and Excel, you can do just that. So enough talking, let's have a look. Let's start by setting ourselves a simple challenge to demonstrate the capabilities. Here I am in Curo at my point of entry to the system, my homepage if you like, a dashboard which gives me the information I'm most interested in most of the time. But today I have a different interest. With the global challenges and economic consequences of the past few years, and with particular consequences for certain investment sectors, I'm concerned to get a view of the likely impact on my clients, and I want to pinpoint those that are most exposed so that I can take positive action. Now, dashboards and charting is brilliant in Curo and lets us get real-time information from the data the system holds. We can cut and dice that data using these very straightforward tools. I can filter, and if I like the result, I can save and share that view with my colleagues. I can chart, and if I don't see a chart I like, I can create my own. But what I can't do is analyze. To satisfy my interest, I need to find averages, and I need to do sums across multiple records. As I want to understand how portfolios have performed, the data that I'm most interested in is fund holdings. In Curo, an investment, say this personal pension, will typically have investments in several funds, and here are the funds related to this specific plan. How do these records get in here? Well, typically they're imported and updated automatically from provider valuation feeds. But looking at and analysing each individual client's plan is absolutely not what I'm going to do. I want to look at all plans for all clients, and I want the analysis to pinpoint for me the clients that I need to focus on. So rather than look at the fund holdings of each investment for each client, I want to look at all the fund holdings for all the clients that my security role permits me to see. That's done through Advanced Find. Through Advanced Find, I can get to any of my data in Curo. And here are all the fund holdings for the clients that I look after. By default, the system invites me to filter the records that I want to see. And I can do that by any combination of fields and values, but I'll just work with all active records. And here's the result. I can see current prices updated from our data feeds, I can see volumes, values, and just like every view in Curo, I have the ability to chart that data. So here I can easily see the total values by client, by manager, etc. But I want to analyze, and I've prepared an Excel template report that will do just that. Anyone that I've shared the template with can do this, and it will analyze their records, not mine. By refreshing the data here, Microsoft Excel reads from Dataverse, gets the up-to-date information, and automatically updates my analysis. From the analysis, I can immediately see the volumes and values of portfolios with each platform. I can see the actual returns of the assets on those portfolios over different time periods, and I can see the average charges and risk ratings too. I have filters, so I can recast the analysis based solely on a wrapper type, such as personal pensions, and I can multi-select to remove the criteria that I'm not interested in. Looking at fund performance, I can see a couple of outliers. Within my top funds, by value, this Jupiter fund is in 2 plans with a combined worth of £60,000, and the performance has been noticeably poor. The charges are proportionately high, as is the Financial Express risk rating. So how do we find clients in this fund? I'll show you in a second. Let's consider another example. This tab analyses assets by fund, and this tab analyses assets by sector, from which I can see that UK smaller companies and UK direct property funds have performed particularly badly. Households aggregates all portfolios by family. Just like in Curo, when I can see the values summarised by account, here I can see values by platform and by wrapper also. These filters are built by Excel automatically based on the data I'm analysing, and that means I can easily filter on that Jupiter fund to see the one client that's exposed, and here are the 2 wrappers in question. And in just the same way, filtering on the UK smaller companies and UK direct property sectors shows me who's exposed, the managers, the funds, and the clients. Powerful, useful, and always up to date, as it's reading data directly from Dataverse. What's more, these report templates are easy to create, and if you stay tuned, I'll show you how. Meantime, I've got another pressing job to do. I need to use Excel to update a load of records in Curo that aren't currently fully complete. Let's look back at my dashboard. These show me the information that I and my colleagues rely on, and the data they show contributes to our overall management information. That one source of data supports multiple people who need information to operate. And although I can see here the date for which each of my clients' reviews was originally scheduled, i.e. the date on which it was due, what I can't see is the date on which the actual review meeting has been booked, and I want to see that. I can alter what I see by editing columns, and from here I can select the booked for date. Whilst I'm at it, I don't need to see the service manager assigned to the review, but I do like to see the power planner, as it's that person I'm going to be liaising with in the run-up to the meeting. I can remove fields I don't want, and I can move the fields I do want so that I can see exactly what I need. Now immediately I see that there's a problem. Some of the booked for dates are missing and our records aren't up to date. I have 2 options at this point. I can use this useful feature to open and update each record one at a time. But what if I'm cleansing or completing hundreds, many hundreds, or even thousands of records? Wouldn't it be great if I could open that data in a spreadsheet and complete the data there? Great news incoming. That's exactly what I can do. I'll firstly show you how you can apply a filter to the records to focus in on just the ones that I want to update. And I can apply multiple filters if I want to add additional criteria to any column in this view. Selecting Open in Excel Online copies my data into Excel and displays those same 4 records. Here I can complete and update the dates, and here I can complete and amend other information also. Note that Excel knows all the permitted pick list values that I can choose from, as these are shared from Curo. When I save the changes I've made, I have 2 options. I can either go and monitor the update of my data, or I can just get on with my work and check in later. I'll choose to monitor, and I can see the import task here alongside ones that I have completed previously. If I select refresh, then I can see that my update has been successful and all 4 records have been updated. Closing the import pane takes me back to my view, but shows no records. Why? Well, that's because I applied a filter to show only the incomplete records, and now I have no incomplete records. Removing the filter confirms that to be the case. Curo users often use this feature to cleanse and enrich their legacy data, and the ability to do so is controlled by the system security roles that you control. So you can give the ability to do what I've just shown only to the people you trust. I've labelled this as a tutorial, but really it's just a quick peek at how report templates are built. The essential knowledge you need to get started. Let's challenge ourselves to rebuild that simple performance analysis report I showed you earlier. Now, we always start a new template by selecting the Curo data that we want to work with. So let's find again those fund holdings which we can access via Advanced Find. The default filter will give me all the active records that I'm entitled to see, but doesn't necessarily give me all of the data I want to see. However, I can use the Edit Columns to select the data items that I want to work on, and I can select not only from fund holdings, I can also select any data that relates to fund holdings, such as funds in this case. Fund records are updated nightly and display information that we source from Financial Express, so I can choose to include fees and performance data against each fund record here, all via this straightforward field chooser. And here's the result. I've extended the holdings information with additional fields that I can now use, and I could have selected many, many more. When I'm happy that I've selected all the fields I want to work with, I select Excel templates and download, and that gives me a basic spreadsheet and some useful data which I can use to design my analysis. What's more, this spreadsheet contains the essential connection and data query between Curo and Excel, which will allow me to rerun and refresh my report whenever I need. Now to perform some analysis. You may already be very familiar with this useful Excel feature, pivot tables. Pivot tables, or pivot charts if you prefer to look at data graphically, are easy to build, simply selecting the fields that you want to work with. In this case, I'm building a pivot table to analyze assets by platform, and I'm adding in the current holdings value, plus the performance information, charges, and risk ratings that I chose in Curo. By default, Excel thinks that I want to sum up the values, but I actually want averages instead, and that's easy to change here. Now I'll rename the columns of my report, as the default names that are automatically assigned are descriptive, but are far too long. And having done that, I'll work on the formatting of the numbers. Those that require a decimal place, those that are sterling values, and that need a currency. Now, looking at my report, I'm thinking that the volume of portfolios on each platform would be useful to know, and I can add that into my analysis here. And I can rename the column so it makes sense too. And so I have a basic analysis. Next, I'll work on the layout of the report, and with a little bit of finessing, I can make it look a lot more presentable. I can move my analysis around, and I'll insert a couple of columns because I know that later on I'm going to add in a slicer, which is one of those dynamic filters that we saw earlier in the demo. But before I do that, I can set the sort order so I get the largest values at the top whenever I rerun this report. But what about those visual clues to indicate size? A quarterly ranking in this case. It's easy to apply, and it's simply using Excel's conditional formatting as an option. And here's more conditional formatting to visually illustrate the highest and the lowest values by automatically assigning colors. And again, all these formatting options get applied automatically when I rerun my report. Adding a slicer to the pivot table is done here. And as we saw in the demo, clicking on one or more of these wrapper types would automatically filter my report accordingly. Because the report is going to be rerun regularly and probably shared with colleagues, I'll invest some time in formatting. I'll add a nice bold title, I'll colour and format the columns, and I'll add a little title to the filters, just using the standard out-of-the-box features of Excel. And with a bit more time, some more finesse, and a few tweaks on the conditions and the formatting, I get a result that I'm happy with. I've applied the same technique to add and format pivot tables and filters to analyse fund performance, sector, managers and households. And I've added multiple filters to enable me to pinpoint clients that satisfy multiple criteria. So having invested time building my report, I now want to save and upload it so I can refresh that report at any time. And selecting Excel templates again allows me this time to upload my template, which I do here. I select the file that I've been working on, which I renamed as Fund Holdings to make it a bit more logical. And whenever you add any record to Curo, You have the option to view that newly created record straight away, and I can get to it here. This report template is mine, hence it appears in My Personal Templates. Company-wide reports can be added by your system administrator, and they're automatically available to everyone in the business. But although this is a personal report, I can still share it with colleagues who can use my report to analyse their own records. When I next want to run my report, I notice that I've 2 reports in my list, the one used in my demo and the one I've just created. If I click here, I can manage my personal templates, adding more and deleting the ones I no longer need. So that is a very brief introduction to the integration between Curo and Excel. And remember, we're integrating with a fully featured Microsoft application. All we're doing is making an essential secure connection between your valuable data and the amazing functionality that Excel provides. So if you're a more advanced user of Excel and you're thinking, well, can I use lookups? Can I use formulas and charts? Can I use Power Pivot, Power Query, Power Map? Can I incorporate data sources from outside of Curo to add other dimensions to my analysis? Then the answer is yes to all of the above. And if that sounds good, but you don't really have all of those skills, then Microsoft provides learning paths, videos and tutorials, all the information you'll need in fact, and all freely available online. I hope you found that interesting and valuable. By all means, contact us for more information and for a personal demo.